I am going to open the chat function now and see what questions we have. So the first question we have is, do potatoes, including skins, have any fiber?
Yeah, so to be honest, the best thing to do is have the potato with the skins on. Actually adds to the fiber content, obviously washed. If you have any problems with swallowing, that might be a problem. So, you know, if you've got swallowing problems, you might be on a different consistency diet, so soft diet or a puree diet, and obviously then you can't get. But yes, no, potatoes also have fiber, but obviously won't be like having whole grain pastas or breads or, you know, couscous or things like that.
Okay, thank you. The second question we have is, would you recommend a gluten-free diet?
Now, so I have celiac disease and I still got Parkinson's. So, you know, the jury is out on that. What I would say is I personally believe that there is, in my personal case, an association somehow between celiac and Parkinson's. There is definitely a link between inflammatory bowel disease and Parkinson's. So in terms of, you know, gluten-free diet, there isn't enough evidence yet to say for people to go on a gluten-free diet. So I'd say just kind of watch this space. The thing about going for a gluten-free diet is that it is naturally often lacking in whole grains because you take the fiber, the whole wheat foods out of the diet. It's lacking in B vitamins, vitamin calcium, iron, B vitamins. So it can end up causing other problems if you go on it when, you know, you may not needing to go on it. What I would say is if you have bowel symptoms of any kind, if you have aching joints, which is my symptom, if you have mouth ulcers, recurrent mouth ulcers, if you suffer from alopecia, if you have secondary fertility problems, if you have anemia, these are all things that basically are associated with celiac disease. So I would get a test done with your GP to check. If you do want to get checked for celiac disease, you need to be eating a wheat containing diet for 6 weeks before you get the blood test to make sure that the test comes out the right way, that it's not a false negative because you took out wheat out of your diet. So what I would say is at the moment, there's not enough evidence to say that people with Parkinson's should go gluten-free. If you do go gluten-free, I would advise you see a dietitian. If that's something that you choose to do, which people can, make sure that you see a dietitian to help you balance out your diet.
Okay, thank you. The next question we have, I believe this question came in before you covered it in your presentation, and it's, what should the reading of vitamin D be in the blood? I know you covered it, but maybe you want to clarify it once more for everybody.
Yeah, so basically what you want to have is your vitamin D levels to be over 50, okay? So if it's below 30, it's deficient. If it's between 30 and 50, it's insufficient. So you want to be out of the deficient and insufficient level, and you want to be in the sufficient over 50, and ideally towards the 80 mark would be where I think people should be.
The next question we have is regarding omega-3 oils, and is there any difference between fresh tuna versus tinned tuna in regards to probiotic intakes?
Yeah, so in terms of vitamin D and also omega-3, basically levels are going to be, omega-3 rather, sorry, in the fresh fish is going to be higher than the tinned fish, particularly in terms of, because with the processing. So obviously when you have the whole fish, you're going to have more of the omega-3. When you kind of have it processed down, you lose some of it. Doesn't mean that it's all gone, but it's not as much as in the whole fish.
Great, thank you. Next question is adding chia seeds to our food good for our bowels?
Yeah, well, your chia seeds are, you know, really good form of fiber as well. So, and, you know, can be good for the bowel. The other thing is linseeds are particularly good for moving the bowel. But because they're so high in fiber, you need to take a pint of water with them, and you need to make sure that you don't take, you know, lashings of it, because it could end up, you know, constipating even more. So again, it would be something that I would titrate. I'd start small with a tablespoon of linseeds in the morning with a pint of water, and then you can build up to, you know, maybe 2. But again, I would maybe just, you know, monitor that you don't end up worsening things. So make sure you take plenty of fluid with it.
Okay, so that's all the questions we have in the chat box. So now we'll open the floor in case anybody else has any burning questions that they want to shout out by turning on their microphones.
I'm just looking there. I see one. Have I come across Simprove, a probiotic? So in terms of Simprove, yes, there has been. It's one of the things I went to Kyoto about, was because there was a whole session on the microbiome, the whole gut brain, and again, I could do a whole talk just on that on its own. It's just exploding in terms of the research. But what came out of the conference in Kyoto and the section on microbiome is that we have to be very careful, and also the research more recently about what probiotics we take, because people with Parkinson's are seen to have what we call dysbiosis. So we have not so many of the good bacteria and some of the less healthy bacteria in our bowels. And that's why constipation can be a problem as well, because when we're constipated, it tends to breed some of the less healthy bacteria, and also some of that bacteria can interfere with your medication as well. And some probiotics can also interfere with your medication absorption. And there's, some that might be worse for our Parkinson's. So very much the expert advice is do not be taking probiotics off the shelf, particularly lactobacillus, which is one of the most common ones that people who get are bifidobacteria, because actually it's shown that people with Parkinson's have a higher level of both of these. So it might be that they are not actually the things that we need to be taking. So the jury is out at the moment, and my advice would be not to be taking probiotics just yet. I just think, is there anyone else? I think that was the only one I saw there extra. The other thing is, just while I'm here, I'm going to just throw up another poll, because it just would be interested to know from people. Just sorry, now I'm just trying to find what's here. So just want to ask you, I'm going to launch this here, if people would mind completing this poll. So basically, it's about access to dietitians. Those of you, can you see it all right?
Yeah.
Do you mind answering that poll for me? So no one's voted yet. So the first question is, have you been referred to a dietitian? Has your GP consultant ever asked you about diet? Have you asked to be referred? So yeah, keep going. Any more want to add in? So we've got 68% have voted. So basically, it's showing here so far that 80% of you have not been referred since diagnosis to a dietitian. 65% of you have never been asked by your GP or consultant about your diet. And 90% of you have not asked for referrals for a dietitian. So I think that's pretty telling. Hopefully from this presentation, you will consider asking your GP and your consultant. Really important that you get a referral to a dietitian. Now, what I will say is there's a caveat. Not all the dietitians are properly trained. I'm going to work on that in Ireland to get people more trained. But what they will do is get the basics right for you in terms of the constipation, bowel issues, protein, weight loss, anemia, making sure you're getting vitamin D correct levels in, etc. And they will, if they're not familiar with various things, they will find out and they will come back to you. So, please do. The next thing I would say that you should do is ask for a referral to a dietitian. And again, there's a problem with access to dietitians, but I would see Parkinson's people being one of the higher priority people that should be seen. And certainly if you have any weight loss or dysphagia problems, you need to get onto it ASAP to get a referral to a dietitian and a speech and language therapist. So I'm just going to end that one. Share the results there. You can see there. And then I'm just going to that one out. And just in terms of the other thing is just out of interest, bowel health. I'm just going to launch this one here. So if you want to take part in that one, how many of you suffer from these bowel symptoms? You wouldn't mind taking part in that. I should have had a section that said none. Sorry about that, but so 63% of you, 36% constipation. So you can see there, it's pretty much in terms of, yeah, the incomplete bowel motions would be tally with the constipations and with the slow bowel movement. So these are things, and wind and bloating will come with constipation. So if you can imagine, if you're bunged up, like, you know, if you imagine a sort of tube and, you know, bunged up either ends, you're going to get air building up. So you will get bloating. So the wind builds up and that causes the bloating. Incomplete bowel motions basically means that you go to the toilet and you haven't felt as if it's all gone. And again, that's in terms of the bowel not fully moving. An urgency to pass a bowel motion, that tends to be more with the sort of diarrhea, but it can happen with constipation when you kind of get blocked and you get this sort of overflow diarrhea as well. But this is something that a dietitian as well can help you with, but it's definitely something that you need to be talking to your GP and your neurologist, ideally, because GPs maybe sometimes don't understand that it's a symptom of the Parkinson's. And those of you who have a Parkinson's disease nurse, like dietitians, we've no problem talking about stools and poo and diet and bowels and stuff, but a lot of people feel uncomfortable about it. You need to talk about it when it comes to Parkinson's because it has a big impact on our health. So that's quite interesting there for you all. So constipation, you can see there, is a high level. And then just another one as well is in terms of your vitamin D. I'm just going to launch this. So if you wouldn't mind answering this, do you take a daily vitamin D supplement? So you can see here at a 77–80% here. So its majority is no. So 60% of you are not taking a vitamin D supplement. So start taking your vitamin D is what I would say. What I would say is, you know, chat with your GP, chat with your neurologist about it. Certainly taking a supplement of 10 micrograms a day is not going to be any harm. Actually, I'm just going to pull back on what I just said there. What I would say is get your vitamin D level checked first, okay? Because if you are, you know, if you start taking them and you get the blood test, you won't know whether you were deficient or not. Now, if you're deficient, 10 micrograms a day is not going to bring it up. You need to be on a higher dose. But I would recommend that, you know, if you can, to get a blood test to be absolutely accurate would be the best thing to do. And then once you have the blood test, you could start on the vitamin D. But, you know, talk with your GP and neurologist about it. And I think the biggest concern is if you're deficient or insufficient in it. Okay.
We just had a comment come in the question box, more so that maybe you can elucidate if there's any difference between access to dietitians based on a public or private avenue of access.
Yeah. So in terms of your access to dietitians, so you should be able to, through your neurologist, you should be able to get a referral to a dietitian within a hospital setting, for example. You should be a higher priority group. That's how, and I'm working in the system, that's usually how it's done, is in terms of prioritization of risk. So you need to say, I'm at higher risk because I have Parkinson's. I need to see someone. I have trouble with my bowels. I'm having trouble with my medication. I want to talk to someone about what I'm eating. You know, you need to basically say those things similarly in terms of your swallow. If in terms of the community setting, you can get a referral through your public health nurse, your public health centre. Through your community services, you can get, again, referred to a community dietitian. But you gotta basically shout about it, and you've got to demand it, and you've got to say that you're in trouble, that you're constipated, you're in, you know, in a lot of pain, your meds aren't working, you need to see a dietitian. Sorry to say, but like, unfortunately, if you don't ask, you don't get in our system. In terms of private, you can access private dietitians. Like everything in our world, if it's private, you might get to see them quicker, but you have to pay for it. So you can access dietitians through the INDI, which is www.in for nutrition, di.ie. and there's a list of private dietitians, a number of them around the country. And then there's also a website called www.sedi.ie, which is Self-Employed Dietitians of Ireland, and you can access dietitians there as well privately. But I always feel, you know, obviously in terms of private dietitians, I am one of them myself, but I think it's really important to be in the public system and get a referral within the public system to get you into, you know, and you shouldn't just see a dietitian. When I can see in Parkinson's, really a dietitian should see you across your disease from beginning all the way along, because there's different things that impact us at different stages. So, you know, ideally you need to be kind of in the system, but if you can't see someone, then you can see a private in between or something. But there are dietitians out there, but you need to ask for a referral. If that answers the question. I'm just going to launch one last one, which is around protein. So if you just, did you know that foods containing protein can interfere with the absorption of levodopa or your cinnamate? It's interesting, it's 50-50. Now, there was a research study that came out in Belgium there recently that showed that I think it was 80% of people with Parkinson's knew that there was an interference between protein and their levodopa, but only 6% actually followed the advice of timing around their meals. So I should have put that as a poll as well to ask how many of you are actually timing your meds around your meals. But those of you who said no, well, now you know, and you can start looking at it. And those of you who said yes, the question is, are you still following the advice or not? And if you're not, what I would advise is for all of these things, including the, just close that out now. So including the, you know, the fiber, the fruit and veg, the fluid intake, you know, your levodopa timing, do a little food diary for yourself and have like a little symptom sort of box, you know, so you actually write down the timing of your meals, what you ate, the timing of your meds and your symptoms. And over a period of a couple of weeks, you might start to see some trends there showing you how, as you improve your bowel motions and your constipation lessens, that actually your symptoms improve. And similarly, in terms of your timing of your protein around your meals, you might find that things improve for you as well. So food diary is a really handy way to sort of learn about yourself in terms of your diet. So that's kind of, I just thought, I hope you didn't mind me doing the polls, but actually I think it's quite interesting to see the answers to them.
Perfect. Yeah, on behalf of everyone, I think we all found it very informative. There's some lovely comments in the chat box if you want to have a look, to give yourself a pat on the shoulder as well, because you fully deserve it.
Sorry, I just realized the time and ran over. I told you
not at all.
Talk too much.
Again, just for people's interest, it is being recorded. So if you do have anybody or any family members that might be interested in watching the presentation, you can get them to reach out to us at Dublin, and the emails are on the website, or anybody that you know might have our personal emails as well, but you can feel free to pass it on, and we'll make sure that everybody has access to it, because I, for one, found it very informative, and I think a lot of you agree. So unless any of you have any other questions, we'll let you sign off and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take your vitamin D, get your exercise, have a look at what you're eating tonight, and be mindful going forward.
Thanks very much, everyone, for your attention and your time. And we're looking to do another one, aren't we, Jake?
Yes, we are. This is something we'll try to do on a monthly basis. We'll try and engage with everybody from a remote setting, because I know a few of us are sitting at home and getting bored. I just actually saw a quick question pop up in the chat box. Is how do you get referred for public speech and language?
Yeah, so exactly the same way. You need to ask your consultant in the hospital, ideally. Now, when I came back from Kyoto, I had thought I had, you know, issues with, I felt like I was something stuck in my throat all the time, or just like a lump. And I spent 4 trying to get answers, and I was pawned off left, right, and center trying to get answers. Went to Kyoto, came back and said, right, that's it. I need a videoporoscopy, which is a scope of your throat. Cut a long story short, basically said that I had a swallow of over a 65-year-old, and I'm only 51. So it's really important. I have young onset Parkinson's, and I still have problems. So it's like your exercise for your arm swing, you know, that you need to exercise to swing your arm, because we lose basically the natural ability to know where our arm is and whether it's moving or not. So you have to focus on moving it. And it's the same with the swallow. You know, people with Parkinson's aren't aware their swallow is not working as properly as it should. And the only way to get that assessed is to see a speech and language therapist and get the proper test done. And we are not getting that done. So again, the only way to get it done is to ask for a referral and keep asking. I hounded them until I got it.
I was with a HSE.
Ask for referral to a public community speech and language therapist, but I would probably go through your neurologist first. And if your neurologist sort of says, you don't have any problems, you're just say, no, I would like a referral, please, and I would like to get it.
Can you hear me, Richelle?
Yes.
I was referred by my physio HSE in Naas to speech and language therapy.
Brilliant. And that's exactly, we all, in terms of health professionals, we should be looking out for. So physio should be looking out for referring you to a dietitian, a speech and language. Similarly, a dietitian, I would always be saying you need to see a speech and language therapist. And I would say an OT and a physio. We really should be seeing the whole team, but we're not getting that multidisciplinary care that we should be getting.
And on that note, if anybody does have any questions that pop into their mind in the few days coming, just again, feel free to reach out to us in Dublin. Again, our emails are on the website for Parkinson's Ireland, and we'll make sure to get them answered for you. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you all for coming, and keep an eye out in the next month for our next event if you do wish to again participate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Very well organized. I appreciate it.
Thank you. See you all.
The other thing is just to say YPI, I think are going to have an event as well online. I think Mary, you're on. I don't know if she's on or not. Or Shane. So I think they're going to be doing something as well. So hopefully a few more things coming down the line from us all.
I think Fidelma might be trying to speak up, but Fidelma, you're muted. So if you want to unmute yourself and say your piece.
I wonder, can I unmute you? There you go. You're muted now.
Just could we have an extra day or two notice of the next meeting, please?
Yes, as you can imagine, there was a lot of change over this week. So yeah, unfortunately it did go out only yesterday. Next time there will be a lot more notice on that account. Thank you though. No, very valid point.
Okay.
Thank you, Fidelma.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Richelle.
Thanks a million. Bye-bye.